let me present to you an idea and you just shoot it down and say it's really stupid.
Okay.
You said something super important where you basically, the idea that sex begins and it's a race to get penis into vagina is like a non-starter, stupid idea in most cases. Quickies are fun when both people are like, let's do this. Sometimes it's just what needs to happen, but that's not how most high quality sex happens.
Right.
My perspective has been for a while the following. Like, this is a standard template. There are, of course, exceptions to this. But as a standard template, it is okay. And here's the template. You begin the interaction by connecting in a non-sexual way entirely and establishing kind of a jovial attitude.
Yeah. I mean, you need to be in a mindful state, right? Yeah. You need to turn off your brain. And so this is the issue in today's society. We are so stressed and so busy. And especially when you're in a, like for women, especially, like we say it's a lot, like you have to have your, like, oh, it's so hard to get them in the zone. But it's not that. It's just that women like have a lot of, bear the brunt of a lot of different things, not just work, but they're also maybe raising children. Maybe they're taking care of their aging parents. They're the caretakers, they're the nurturers. So they end up having a lot of these additional stressors. And where men see sex as like some stress release, women are like, if it's not sex worth having, it's just a chore.
Yeah, 100%.
And so you have to get them to feel like it's not a chore. It's fun for them too.
Okay. After that period of enhancement of relaxation, my idea is you begin to touch in a way that at first can really seem and is non-sexual. And at some interval, which really depends, could be every 30 seconds you escalate, could be every 30 minutes you escalate, you begin to touch and hold and be physically present in a way that is next level sexual. But ideally, you milk every single large transition point from non-sexual touching all the way to my hand is on your vagina and I'm staring you in the eyes. There's so much there. That's two things. One is it builds the erogenous tension like crazy. You get to PIV after 20 minutes or after an hour of that, you're just going to ready to blow up. Right. And it's going to be fucking phenomenal. If I just hit it right away, you're kind of like, if the mood's not there. The other thing is there is so much pleasure to collect just from that. Like, imagine a situation in which you had like crazy psychotic foreplay to where you're basically melting in his arms and he's like, hey, I got to call also a doctor. I got a patient. I got to go. He just goes, would you say like, fuck, I didn't nut. That was the worst time ever. Of course you wouldn't say that. You'd be like, that was phenomenal. When the hell do you get off work? Yeah. I hope your patient dies soon. I'm kidding. I know you doctors talk like that all the time. I'm kidding.
No, we don't.
Also about that. Shut up sometimes. So people call it foreplay. I think that's almost like a disservice to the term because like
it's part of it.
It's part of it. Like it's preparatory. Like, I don't know, man, like just jerking in the bathroom has no foreplay and it feels fun, but like having your body incrementally more caressed sexually and more sexually, sometimes peeling back to less sexually to get the confusion going, and then in again to more sexual touching, to me, that's fucking part of the main course.
Yeah. And this whole time, no, I think it's great. I think that you have to sort of take your cues from your partners. Like you said.
Okay, tell us about the cues.
So like you said, like there's like this, could be every 30 seconds, could be every 30 minutes. It's really like, how are they, like you feel them melt into you, right? You feel them start like their pupils start dilating. They start feeling a little, they might lean into you. Yes. They might start really they might get like they might start touching you back, right?
If they start anticipating the next touch, they're like, when's the next touch coming?
Right. And you start just kind of following the cues, right? Their breath might get a little bit heavier. And like, you just have to be cognizant, right? Sure. And I mentioned this in another one of our videos, but like foreplay starts in the morning, right? You want to actually show your partner they are desired and wanted long before you're planning to have sex. And I think what I'd like to tell people is like, it's intimacy you want to focus on, not like the penetrative sex. Yeah. It's like being intimate with your partner. And that can mean so many different things, right? You could just get naked and be together and that may or may not end up in sex, but still could be freaking amazing, right? And so I think it's really like taking cues from your partner and spending that quality time. And I think sometimes, and people hate when I say this, but I'm like, if you actually schedule this time with your partner, so like, hey, you schedule brunch, you schedule a meeting, you schedule this, you schedule that, you schedule the gym, but you don't schedule time time with your partner. And so like, they're like, I'm thinking about 100 different things and now you want to caress me. And like, I'm like, oh, you know, I'm busy. I'm thinking about something else. And so when you've scheduled that time, you're like, okay, this is time for us. Like, it doesn't have to be sexual, but it's time that we've set aside to be intimate. And it may or may not have happened where you're having sex, but now you're in the mindset, right? You've sort of set the stage.
Sure. A massage is probably a pretty nice thing to schedule because you're like, look, we're just going to rub each other totally platonically. Wink. Until and unless me rubbing you and you're like, you need to finish the job here because shit's happening. That's kind of cool because it doesn't put any pressure on the situation to be sexual. Because sometimes the downside with scheduling sex is like, then it becomes performative and you're like, well, we have an hour, better get to the sex. But it's like, no, you schedule some cuddling or some massage time. If that's the furthest it goes, what a great time.
Right.
No one turns down a massage. That's crazy. But if it happens to evolve into something deeper and more sexual, hey, shit, everyone's winning.
And the hard part is getting both partners on the same page about that, right? Because sometimes it's like there's a lot of preconceived notions, especially if you're in a long-term relationship, there's some baggage there sometimes,
especially if you're not communicating.
Right. And so the partner who has a lower desire might feel like, well, I'm feeling pressured into having sex. And the other person might feel like, man, why won't this person have sex with me? Even though they've agreed on intimacy. And so you really have to work on that. And sometimes getting a sex therapist involved as like a neutral party, right? To help you work through those thoughts and like emotions is going to be helpful, right? Because sometimes it's just so devolved that you just need help. But yeah, I think it's so important and really like, just like you said, like just, it could even be like going for a run together, something to get your heart rate up, something to like, because if you think about it, like the things that happen during sex, your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure, goes up, like you're just getting revved up. So doing the same thing, getting your body a little revved up might get you even turned on a little bit, right? And so you could figure out things that you can do together that's not going to dinner, where you're just like eating and feeling bloated and like, not feeling sexy afterwards, and trying something else that actually does get you more in the mood.
Okay. So for this part, I'm not going to get into full detail of my sex life, but I want to at least give some examples from my own experience, like an overall, just kind of an overall. So for me, what I've learned is when you get into those relationships, and I want to say like, especially once you kind of hit a certain mark, when you've been with the person for quite a while, whether, maybe after the first year, that honeymoon stage is over, or even like, you've been married for a couple years now, the routine becomes just, like I said earlier, I think that kind of becomes an issue. I think it is important to make the time and to schedule a specific time to, have those nights or days or whatever, whatever time of the day you and your partner choose to do it, is important. But I think I think you add pressure, unnecessary pressure to your routine. Whereas like, I think a better way to go about it, kind of, tying it to like what the doctor is saying, is to kind of have like you can have that routine, but be pretty open. Like, to me, at least from my own experience, that has really helped me in a lot of my relationships, at least on the intimate side. I mean, not all my relationships worked out, obviously, but that didn't really have nothing to do with the intimacy. But at least on the intimacy part, I feel what has helped me go from, having a very immature, childish way of thinking about sex to a more adult, mature way and wiser way to having and seeing and going about sex, is to learn. You have to build up that tension. You have to tease. You have to have fun. I think a lot of the time, both men and women, I think for men, ours is just, I don't know how else to put it. Just getting to that point where we're going to bust a nut. And for the women, a lot of the time it's, either pleasing the man or maybe themselves, just busting a nut themselves, and I think that's great, but it shouldn't be the end goal, for intimacy in a relationship. If you're in a casual relationship, sure, have at it. But in a committed relationship, I think you need to have to try to keep that spark turned on. You have to go about it different ways. Now, obviously, with the communication is very important. Maybe, playing around, flirting, trying new things every day. Like, in my own experience, sometimes because, life is happening and you don't have a whole hour to do what you're going to do with your partner. So maybe you can only have quickies, 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, quickie, however long your quickies last. And, but what I've learned, or what I've at least, I think in my experience has been successful, is to try, 1, 2, 3 quickies a day, to just make it an all day thing, where you're, like I said, you're building up that tension, you're fantasizing, you're flirting, you're teasing, you're having fun. And that's the end goal at the end of the day. It's not just get to the climax part of it. That's just kind of the another part of the experience itself. Because even, with that, I would also say even after the climax, what are you guys doing afterwards? Are you guys connecting, or is it just, all right, I'm going to sleep, or all right, I'm going to go do something else? Like, I think it's also very important to even build something after that, I don't know, cuddling, talking, watching something, like just adding more things to that routine that you have. I guess I'm going against what I said earlier about not having a routine, but at least the type of routine, I guess I should have said. In like your intimacy with your partner. I think more things that have helped me in my relationships has also been, flirting like we did when we first started dating, throughout the day. And you build up that tension, because if you think about it, either when you're first dating somebody as an adult, or even when when we're teens, like not being able to get what we want, kind of, I don't know. I feel like that's kind of a turn on, and it's kind of a challenge for both people. You know, you start and then you're just left right there. Versus, I think there's a difference versus from that versus like you start, then you get interrupted, and well, I guess the mood is ruined. Like, no, you continue it. It's just you're putting a pause, but you're not letting that flame go out. So okay, fine. I don't know if you have kids or if you got work or whatever interferes with the moment. When you guys are trying it, don't let it just completely ruin your plans. For me too, like I said, I think a lot of the things that have helped has also been making it spontaneous. Like if you want to plan it maybe like a day ahead or something like that, that's great. But a lot of the time it's also like, hey, we got a couple minutes, we're alone, let's you're looking good, I'm feeling good, let's do this. Type of thing, versus, like I said, trying to like plan it out, like you're trying to do, a checklist of all the different chores and errands and everything else you got going on. Because I mean, as you get older, as your relationship grows, like life doesn't just stop lifing, and you're not gonna be right there, having the whole day to bump uglies, or you're not gonna have that energy also to be bumping uglies every day, all day, months, years, however long you've been with this partner. So, like I said, to me, that has helped me. I think especially if you grow up being told that intimacy is like ill, it's a girl thing, it's always going to be uncomfortable at the beginning to kind of grow out of that and learn. And, but we just got to be open. Again, for us dudes, if sex is important, with your partner, then why not try it? Like for me, also, what I've learned in different relationships, the more open minded I am, and the more we try things, and I'm talking about like open minded in like the more emotional department, like about intimacy, about communication, having to face those insecurities and uncomfortability, with myself. I see more open-mindedness. And I'm not saying this to manipulate or, you know, your partner, but I'm saying, like, from my own experience, I've noticed that, like, you know, the more open-minded I am, you know, later on it pays off because now she's a little bit more open-minded. But again, it's all about communication, you know. And to me, like I said, I don't know, maybe it's the Latin blood inside of me. Like, to me, passion is very important, but either because of the way that I grew up learning about sex or just life happening sometimes, it's not always easy to, you know, just turn it on and, you know, keep it on, you know. But it's very important to do so, to learn how to do so, to try new things, to keep trying it, to put in the effort, you know, just to do that. Because it's also going to show your partner, you know, more effort that you're willing to put in. And I don't know, I've heard all the dudes complain like, oh, you know, she wants me to do all this and da da da. And it's like, well, yeah, you know, what the are you doing in a relationship if you're not willing to put in the effort? You get me? So I'm talking to all the dudes that are open minded and wanting to see their relationships, you know, function. Like, if you want something, you got to put in the work. Like, we're always talking about that as men, you know, and this ain't nothing different. You can't just, you know, oh, well, she's my partner, you know, expect all these things and not expect her to have her own expectations. You know, like, that's just how a relationship works. I think it's just about us getting out of our own comfort zone and being open with ourselves too. If there's some things that we're not comfortable, or, you know, for whatever reason we're not comfortable, then figure that out, you know, work that out and communicate that with our partner. But again, if we want our relationship, our intimacy in this relationship to function and thrive, you get me? And we want to also see our partner happy and satisfied. I want to believe so, right? And then we got to put in the work, you know, and maybe some things are not going to work out anymore like they did at the beginning, and that's fine. I don't understand why, and I'm saying not just from like, oh, well, others have done it. I'm talking also from myself, because I've done this in the past too. I don't understand why and I'm not just talking for men and women, like, when we get into a relationship, it seems like putting more effort into certain things, it's almost like a chore. And I don't understand that aspect of us as humans, like why we're willing to put in all this effort to get a person, or even when we're, you know, starting the relationship, to show how much we care and we, you know, we desire and we want this relationship to work out. But as we go, you know, we get a little bit more comfortable in the relationship. It's almost like a chore, and it shouldn't be. Again, if it's, you know, if you want a committed, happy, healthy, I don't know, you know, relationship and connection with your partner, then again, you got to get off your ass. You got to get out of your own comfort zone, and you got to try new things, you know. And I'm just talking about, again, you know, just the communication part aspect of it, because I know for me, and I'm speaking from personal experience, that has always been a issue in my past that I had to learn how to overcome, and I'm still learning how to overcome it, where there's some things that I'm like, this feels uncomfortable because it goes against what I learned growing up from sex, whether that was from porn, whether that was from media, whether that was from conversations, you know, with other dudes about their, you know, sexual encounters with other women, and even like my own personal experiences where I grew up thinking a certain type of way. But I mean, like any aspect of our lives, as we get older, our minds, our belief systems need to also change. So to me, like I said, I've learned. I'm not gonna pretend like all this is new information for me, but at one point it was, and that's why, like, I chose this video, because I'm like, you know, I think this is very important for a lot of men to listen to, and to, you know, if they're wanting and willing to apply this information to, you know, their relationships, to see that the relationships succeed a little bit more and more, You know, I'm always going to promote that for relationships to be successful, for relationships to be healthy and happy.
Is just not the wisest thing offhand. Is that true?
Yeah, and I think it depends on the person, obviously.
Of course.
But
on average,
what
very broad
happens
strokes.
most often is that this is how men initiate, right? They'll smack a butt, they'll grab a breast, whatever, because they're just trying to be playful and funny.
Also, they're gorillas, and that's
sure,
what gorillas
but they're just like, we don't really know how to do this, so we're just going to do this because it makes our intentions clear. We're just being funny.
Okay, so as for this part, like I said earlier in the other video, I think again it's all about kind of building that tension. For going back to like my own experiences, what I've had with women,